Northern Uganda continues to emerge out of the LRA conflict, which brought ruin to its economy. When the COVID-19 pandemic barreled across the landscape, it brought with it a trail of destruction in this part of the country. Many young girls could not report to school as a result of the lockdown, which was imposed in March 2020. This worsened the situation in this sub-region where 1 in every 5 households records a teen below 18 years of age that either has a child or is pregnant. According to a 2019 APCAN report, over 45% of deliveries at health facilities in Acholi sub-region are of teenagers who mainly dropped out of school. For many parents in northern Uganda, education, which is in ruin, is the only silver of hope out of endemic poverty. However, when a girl gets pregnant while at school, the hope vanishes and she becomes an outcast to the family and community. Others want to abort so that they can continue to pursue their studies. During the lockdown, homes became a den where men and young boys alike preyed on girls largely in their teenage years. Most of the girls were naive and did not know that their lives would end in despair. The Children's Act, Cap 59, indicates that any person below the age of 18 is a child. These are referred to as young people in the 2004 Uganda National Adolescent Health Policy. Despite the existing legal definition of a child, a girl's sexual maturation, manifested by menstruation and the development of breasts in patriarchy-leaning communities, is seen as a rite of passage to adulthood. Komboni Samaritans of Gulu, a faith-based organization, says that more than 17,000 girls in the 8 districts of Acholi sub-region became mothers at a tender age during the coronavirus period. But Gulu District Education Officer puts a figure at between 20 and 30 girls who did not return to class after the phased reopening of schools. He, however, says that school inspectors could have missed some figures. To probe this scourge of teenage pregnancies, I traveled through the deeper recesses of Amoro, Gulu, Kitgum and Omoro to speak to victims of teenage pregnancies. Whereas towns continue to sprout, the scars of the LRA conflict are still visible. I spoke to 14-year-old Achiro, not her real name because she's a minor, who was breastfeeding her 1-week-old baby in Ongaro sub-county in Omoro district. She was in primary 5 when government announced the first lockdown on schools.
Bicharo piano la lanya no ko ba ka digital gan la lanya no mo ka digital wai bi che ti ka de du ga ma de tara gang cha am da ko na o de o bin wala do.
Achiro recounts how the boy in the neighborhood promised to marry her, but he disappeared from the village.
I am do we ang ga gel no pu du piando vora ka da ko ne bi ga ma no mo ta na be da ka gang kwan.
She gave birth through a cesarean section. She could not explain what happened during the labor. Achiro's mother has resolved to take care of the child to allow her daughter to go back to school. But as she shared her thoughts with NTV, the grandmother interjected, saying a girl who gets pregnant while at school is worthless and has lost her chance to study. In a nearby village, still in Omoro district, another 14-year-old girl, who we shall call Abe, gave birth during the lockdown through cesarean section, and she lives in pain. She was in primary 5 before the lockdown. She continued to study while she was pregnant till the lockdown happened and she gave birth. She's forced to dig against the doctor's advice to provide for her child. Her mother is epileptic and cannot take care of the child. She has to move with her child as she lacks a caretaker. Abe wants to return to class because she sees no future with her estranged boyfriend who impregnated her. He is a minor and has no means to take care of the 7-month-old baby. Her brother, who is the breadwinner in the home, is 23 years old and has 2 children with his wife. Speaking off the cuff, he told me that Abe ruined her future by getting pregnant and he will no longer pay her tuition. These anecdotes portray the predicament that many girls in this sub-region are trapped in. Acholi, not her real name because she's a minor, has just turned 14 years old. She is the 8th in a family of 9 children. NTV found her boiling water to bathe her 1.5-month-old baby. She was in primary 5 when the lockdown happened. Her mother has a hearing impairment and NTV could only speak to her at length through an interpreter. She breaks down when speaking about how she was betrayed by her sister's husband when she shared a hut with them.
Drungo ulono bana pianan galongo gujo kwe guna choro tumo ron. Karma gujo kwe guna tumo. Chiyo kenya no wache ni. An ka weko loko ngeni ka mogi kena. An eni binego ano nuro voro kera no fura age na no kwe fura chubu na na chalo tiene degani gine no teme chu wai ka man chi abiru lu mo wajo loke ka ma biru lu tiano nano don ka mano eno nano ka mano chao don riema ke gange.
In Kitgum district, this woman was disappointed to learn that her daughter had run away with a boy in the neighborhood upon conceiving. The father wanted the unborn baby aborted. Because the parents told us that they can forgive and take their daughter, who was in primary 7, back to school, we tracked the girl with the help of her sister to where she was staying with a juvenile boyfriend. The mother-in-law dashed out of the kitchen as she looked frightened. We were later told by neighbors that such fears are common among parents of boys or impregnated young girls. They believe that any stranger who comes to their village in a vehicle could have intentions to arrest their son for impregnating a young girl. The girl was at the market to shop for her 2-week-old son. She regrets leaving her mother in pain, but says she can no longer return to class. As we spoke to her, the boyfriend arrived on a sports bike demanding to know why we were talking to his wife without his consent. He is 17 years old. He later settled down and agreed to speak to me. He fears for the future and says he does not yet have the ability to marry. Many of the youngsters who got into early marriages or got pregnant during the lockdown can barely fend for their families. Akero, not her real name, 15 years old, is the last born in a family of 9 children. Her mother lives in Apa, but she was staying with her aunt who lives in Awere, but she's now living with her boyfriend in a nearby village in Keyo in Amoro district. She missed the 2020 primary living examinations that were done in March. Her new home lacks a radio to listen to the Ministry of Education directive for teachers to allow pregnant girls to sit for the national exams. I am in a wet trading center, and this 15-year-old girl here was in primary 5 at the time of the lockdown. But she didn't go back to school because in October she got pregnant and has come to stay at this home as the second wife. of a 23-year-old man. I've been chatting with her and she doesn't know most of the things that are required of her as a mother to be. She doesn't know what a mama kit is. She doesn't know how women give birth. Her story represents stories of many young girls who got pregnant during the lockdown.
Chier mako dai via no be patem gyomo. Nga dai wi. Enchuane. Da pe ngane. Ngona mar be ta. En me intim. Bir arnyi ka. Tapi mengakan. Boko loge akun be kera binwe. Kera boko loge ne ka gama doga.
Akero's dream to become a nurse shimmers like a mirage in the desert after she became pregnant. Her boyfriend placed her under the strict supervision of his other wife, a 17-year-old mother of two. This has brought her a lot of torment and anguish. Sophie Kidega is a senior woman teacher at Pagak Primary School, where about 9 girls did not return to school for various reasons, including pregnancy. She's concerned about the level of neglect by some parents during the lockdown.
The parents down in the villages there, they are not all that supportive to their girl child, because as a mother you have to be close to your girls. Your daughter has to tell you her problem. You should be knowing the stage she has reached, she needs this help from me. And you find that they're really lacking this. And some girls sometimes tell me their mothers are too rude to them, which makes these girls not to disclose their problems to their mother. So I'm really appealing to mothers down there to try to be close to your daughters, even the fathers, because you know sometimes these girls love their fathers more than their mothers. So let's try to be close to these children of ours. We know their problems and we get a way of helping them so that they really become future mothers who are responsible, not these young ones.
According to Margaret Alanyo, the Secretary Women Affairs Northern Region for Uganda National Teachers Union, lack of parenting placed the girls in harm's way. She suggests rethinking the approach to girl-child education.
Then also guidance and counseling need to be done to these girls at school. We give them, maybe we guide them, we give them women at a higher level, we bring closer to them. We said when you educate yourself, you will be like this woman, you will be like this one. Maybe next time you will be the president. We encourage them not to at least look at them as if now they are hopeless when they have problems.
She says the coronavirus lockdown has reduced the gains made in girl-child enrollment in schools, which had improved. According to a survey conducted between February and April 2020 by Komboni Samaritans of Gulu under the Awakening Hope Project, closure of schools exposed girls between the ages of 12 to 17 to early pregnancy, with over 17,653 cases reported in the 8 districts of Acholi sub-region.
Not a figure that we should be proud of as Acholi and as a nation, because today it starts with these 17,653. The next time it will go to many more.
The survey shows that 2,280 school-going girls got pregnant in Gulu, with only 40 out of the 569 reached expressing interest to return to school. 640 girls got pregnant in Noya, 6,549 in Amoro, 3,855 in Omoro, 1,359 in Kitgum, 1,149 in Lamuo, 910 in Agago, and 920 reported cases in Pade.
The process of trying to find out, the majority of them expressed that they actually had no interest of going back to the formal classroom setting, and they were preferring vocational.
Michael Olere is concerned that most of the girls who got pregnant during the school lockdown come from broken families. Komboni Samaritans of Gulu has established a project worth 1.2 billion shillings to, among others, provide psychosocial support to teenage mothers and communities, provide sexual and reproductive health services to the teenage mothers, reinstate the teenage mothers in school, and establish a livelihood support program for teenage mothers.
We also plan to provide business support capital to these teenage mothers so that after finishing the skilling program or the normal formal education, they have a seed capital so that they can start up with life. Because we realize in most cases, even if you skill someone but the person does not have the capacity to stand alone, it is like you've done nothing.
Caesar Akena, the Gulu District Education Officer, says that there is a need to educate children to improve their self-esteem.
At school level still, I'd love to see our teachers building self-esteem in these learners, because when you have self-esteem, you feel you have a worth, you have a value in yourself. There are reasons why you are born, there's a reason why you should be in school, and you must complete your education. But because this self-worth has not been inculcated into the mind of these people, they just feel, I can get a husband today, even if you're 13, 14, 15. But if this self-worth was inculcated in their mind, they would focus on their education. Of course, the lockdown was there, fine, but they could have focused on their education with the vision that I want to be so and so tomorrow. So this was, I think, a missing gap. So we want now to make sure that we promote self-worth in our children. I think we also want to create an environment where our children feel they are safe in the schools. Somebody is there to talk to them.
Gulu District has recorded a decline of 200 out of 2,920 pupils who are meant to sit for the 2020 primary leaving examinations. Out of these, 105 were girls, underpinning a disproportionately high number compared to the male counterparts.
I think we did not do enough, because if we had done enough work in our schools, the lockdown wouldn't cause the pregnancy that we hear. Supporting the girl child to know menstruation period, how to manage it very well, and then how can they be supported at school and also at home.
I think what should be done, that girls should stay at school. Girls should say no to sex.
The girls should not be sent at night to buy something in the shop, because there are some boys, they can rape some girls at night. Girls should be at school. They should not be pregnant.
To keep girls in school, government must offer a Marshall Plan to this sub-region that was battered by decades of conflict and integrate a holistic approach to learning which caters for the vulnerable girl child. Irene Abalo, NTV.